Howdy, folks. Can everybody hear me? We supposedly have voice again on a D.
Yes.
Yay. I see some new avs. We have a big purple dragon thing and a tree. Or something sort of tree-like anyway. Int, okay. Makes sense. Alright, we might as well go ahead and get started. I'm not sure if Alexa's coming by this week or not. So we are continuing to plug away on getting Animesh shipped. I think everything has been checked out by QA now. There's one remaining issue that just has to do with validating attachments, and I think that will be a small additional fix. So hopefully it won't be too much longer before we can get it deployed. In a wider setting. Probably the first step would be to get it out on all of Aditi, and then give it a little bit of a shakeout period to I don't see Agni. So that would be for the server support for Animesh. There's definitely some bugs left on the viewer side. Been I don't know about the broken. I don't know what we're gonna do about the broken rotations yet. I spent some time looking into that this week. Let's see. We've also been looking into the LOD bounding box stuff. I'm pulling in some changes that Graham put together there, which should improve accuracy and help performance, but we may need to do a bit more looking around on it. Well. So anyway, coming along, once we have something in a reasonably better than it used to be state, we'll update the project viewer and just post it on that stuff. The rotation thing is kind of nasty. Beck and I talked about this a little bit in email. I don't know if everybody else has heard the whole story on it. We've got the issue of trying to get things to line up with the physics shapes, and um, the problem there is that if you make like say you make a link set, you link together a bunch of objects to make an animesh. The physics location is still wherever the original objects were. So you could have stuff that's like scattered all over, and the physics shapes are scattered all over, and then you say, hey, you're all linked together, presto, you're an animesh. And so now, the graphical appearance is moving around wherever the avatar is. You got to put it somewhere. You pick a spot, but wherever the avatar is, then that's where everything looks like it is, but the objects are still left behind. They're still the physics shapes are still hanging around, wherever the original kind of sub objects were. Cutting out. Is anybody else hearing me okay, or not too good?
It sounds okay now.
Okay, I'll try to bellow as much as possible, but if it gets too bad, we can typing or something. Where were we? So that Hellboy looks like Hellboy. Anyway, um, so yeah, it's kind of a hairy problem. It seems like if you want it to work in all possible cases, then you have to kind of munge the physics shapes of at least some of the primitives, and you have to figure out kind of how the skeleton should be oriented. Our answer so far has been Well, the skeleton is always pointed toward plus X, and if you want a physics shape, you basically need to put it in the root, because if you put it somewhere else, it's just gonna, be messed up. It's possible that that's the final answer we'll go forward with, but we are going to do some more analysis on this, and I'm sure that we're working on. Let's see what else is going on. Is Anchor here? I don't see Anchor. So we're continuing work on Bakes on Mesh. I think we mentioned last week that we're looking at adding additional channels to the baking service, and then adding support in the tattoos for those additional channels. Um, so those are in progress. It turns out that requires changes to the appearance service and the viewer and the simulator. So getting it in a testable state is a little hairy, and you also got to worry about potential backwards compatibility issues if older viewers try to deal with these things. So we are still looking into that, but we'll let you know when it's out in a sufficiently well-behaved state. Appear to have black skirts. Using which viewer? Using the Bakes on Mesh viewer? Uh, hmm. I don't know. I'm using an Animesh viewer, and I'm not seeing skirts on anybody right now. Okay, I do not see a skirt on myself. Who else are we saying has these? Minuet, Kyle, Cube. I guess I am seeing some people with black skirts or whatever they are. Although I'm not seeing my own av with one. Okay, so what? That has to be an appearance service issue then, doesn't it? I mean, the viewers weren't showing this before, but we have updated the appearance service for the new Bakes on Mesh stuff, so it's probably a bug against that. Um, Probably the texture ID you're getting for baked skirt is wrong, and that's showing up on a bunch of people. Well, we just updated the appearance service recently, I think. Anchor's been working on updating that to support um, the new baked channels. So this is probably just a bleeding edge software issue.
I just logged on into Second Life with the Baked on Mesh viewer about an hour ago, and it didn't update. And then when I logged on into the beta grid, it is trying to make me update, but I didn't want to update because I didn't want to miss any of the meeting. So I'm seeing the skirts, and I'm on a non-updated Baked on Mesh viewer. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's the issue.
Yeah, I think it's the appearance service. I mean, if you get an appearance message that says, "Hey, you're wearing a black skirt," then your viewer is going to show a black skirt pretty much for any viewer. So I think this is probably related to the updates that Anchor's been making to support the new stuff, appearance service. If nobody sees this on Agni, do they? main grid? Okay. All right, I'll talk to Anchor about that. It's probably just a glitch with the current appearance service. Put it on Agni? Yeah, sure, why not? I don't think anybody would mind. Leviathan, I don't know what the timing is going to be for the rotation issue. We don't yet know what the fix is for the rotation issue either. But we'll keep you posted on that. Let's see. Question about new avatar complexity. Uh, I've done some work on that recently. Maybe it's not out on the project viewer yet. The SQM value is not correct. Yeah, the current values on my viewer are not the values you're seeing there. Maybe we haven't actually done a project viewer update since I worked on this. Yeah, you guys may be behind. We may have an update that needs to go out. I think this is, in development. I think this is fixed now. So the next time that you guys get updated, you should see better values for this stuff. To check Animesh complexity, you go to, let me see, Advanced, Performance Tools, Show Avatar Complexity Information. And that will show you complexity values for both Animeshes and regular avatars, if you're using the Animesh viewer. Question about the LOD cutoffs, poly count cutoffs for LODs. Yeah, what's the question there, Polysale? 50% of its previous value. Yeah, that I mean that was part of the I think we did a forum post about that when it first went out. That was part of the process of trying to set the uh, limits with respect to LOD complexity. The idea there was to pick numbers such that people weren't discouraged for creating good LODs, but that there were some restrictions on LOD complexity. Well, not really restrictions, but some incentives to keep LOD complexity from being high. So I think 50% may be reasonably common, and obviously if you do have 50% step down on each LOD, then um, you don't have too much extra overhead from the LODs as long as the base model is reasonable. Yeah, we could push it harder. I think, obviously we're to we're trying to keep things workable for a kind of wide range of creators. I don't know if everybody is going to find a more stringent setting kind of achievable or not, but I feel like at 50%, at least we're getting a reasonable benefit from the step down uh, without hopefully making things too hard for people who are trying to do LODs. Start with a higher poly count value. I'm not sure how that would help in the case of Animeshes. I mean, this is all about Animesh accounting. It doesn't have anything to do with other types of meshes currently. And with Animeshes, if your base object has a high poly count, then you're getting charged for that. It's affecting your land impact. Yeah, and it's certainly possible that animeshes and non-animeshes can have significantly different land impacts because one attempts to incorporate the scale and one doesn't. The problem is that trying to use the scale in an animesh doesn't really make any sense because the scale isn't used during rendering. Um, so it just becomes this kind of free parameter that somebody can set to whatever they want. But then if you have a formula that doesn't reference the scale and you're comparing it to a formula that does reference the scale, you're never going to be perfect matches depending on the model. There's discrepancies one way or the other. Shellin asks, is this only an Animesh thing? Yeah, we're just talking about Animesh accounting right now. This is how specifically it's about how the streaming cost for Animesh objects gets calculated, and usually the streaming cost is the thing that determines the land impact. Of course, if you have a huge physics cost or something, then that could wind up determining land impact instead, but I think typically it's going to be streaming cost. Oh, sorry, I think my mic was off. I was just talking uh, about the poly accounting. There was a concern that if you have a low poly model and you try to make each LOD even lower, you can only go so low, and there actually is a floor in the calculation. So it doesn't try to force you to go below a certain limit, which I think is 64. Um, so if you have a really low poly model to start out with, you can keep your other LODs at a similar level of complexity. But they could all be 64 count against you. Question: SL scale settings are ignored on Animesh. Does this mean Animesh can't be resized at all? Yeah, this really comes from the way that we handle rigged meshes in general. Scale settings don't really matter for mesh objects on avatars either. Um, but uh, in the case of avatars, you have other mechanisms for doing scaling, which using the sliders and so on. In the case of animeshes, when we do the initial release, the available mechanism for scaling is just going to be, you'd have to make a model that had a different set of joint positions defined. We're hoping to do a project that will allow more customization for animeshes as a follow-on. Clearly, that would be a nice thing to have. Just kind of taking this by stages. Is the formula published? Yeah, I've got a kind of a simplified description on the wiki. The full details, full gory details, were in a forum post that I put up when it first went out, and I can probably dig that up fairly quickly. Although I expect that Horley will find it first. Let's see. Here we go. Animesh updated limits and cost formulas. This is the post. Uh, we're not planning to change the number of Animesh attachments right now. It's conceivable that that could change in the future, but I don't think that's going to change before the initial release. Okay, so the link I posted is the formula we're currently using, and I think it has because it's kind of a complicated formula, it's a little confusing to read, but it does have, I think, all of the correct gory details about how the streaming cost is calculated, which is usually how the land impact is going to be determined. We already raised the try count limit to 100,000. What do you mean? Yeah, I don't think that's going to be going higher in the near term, at least. We'll see how things go. I don't know. I think giving landowners the ability to raise it would give you a pretty inconsistent experience, right? You're going to have objects that work some places and not others. I think if we change the limit, it would be more likely that we would do something globally instead. What kinds of uh, Galathir, what kinds of use cases are you thinking of for attachments? Is there anything stopping someone from just linking multiple attachments together and wearing it? Not really, but if you do that, then what you get is one one Animesh object with one skeleton. The limit is really how many skeletons, independent skeletons you can have attached to yourself rather than how many, objects you can have attached. Because, if you've got a bunch of different meshes, and a bunch of different animations and stuff, yeah, you can link all that stuff together as long as it doesn't exceed the triangle limit, but it's still all going to have one skeleton rather than several independent. And yeah, it's certainly possible for different meshes to be incompatible if they're fighting over joint positions or positions aren't consistent or whatever. I see, Galathir. Yeah, it does certainly limit things somewhat if we can only do one attachment at a time. Obviously the concern here is that there is a fair amount of overhead from Animesh and from having independent skeletons. It's not quite as bad as having a whole additional avatar stuck on yourself, but it does impose some costs, and so um, the concern is that if we don't have any kind of restrictions on that, then people are going to have, I don't know, a little man inside each ring and so forth. Of course, nobody here would do something like that, but I'm just imagining it as a possibility. So it's you got to draw the line somewhere. One, at least it gives you a chance to have a pet or a special friend or whatever that you want to or extremely active hair that you want to have with you all the time, but it doesn't necessarily throw the door completely open to having arbitrarily complicated stuff on your avatar. It's possible that we would revise that in the future, but at least for now we're gonna go forward with one and see how things pan out. So yeah, I don't think we're going to try to uh, set the LOD restriction to be more stringent at this point. I know there are people who could do great content with less than 50%. Obviously, the goal isn't to mandate that everybody makes their LODs at least 50% as big as the ones before. If they're smaller, that's great. It's going to help performance and it's if they know their stuff, it's going to look good. But we're trying to make this as accessible as possible without making the LEDs completely useless.
And no consideration for going to 75 instead of 50 on the set on the medium.
Um, I still don't see why we need to be higher than 50 on the medium. I know there's a concern in some quarters that you need to have the medium be almost as complex as the high, and maybe there are some models where the LED thresholds are behaving differently than what I'm used to seeing. If someone wants to shoot me some content or animations that shows the problem, I'd be interested to discuss it. But it currently our radius thresholds for switching LEDs are super high, and so you've pretty much got to be across the planet before something even goes down to medium LED. For the models that I'm used to dealing with, I just don't understand why you need to have nearly the same complexity for when you're going to be that far away before you start seeing it. And again, maybe it's that we're working with different models or
Well, Veer, I mean, come on. I just showed I in the example I showed on the forums, it shows the LOD changing within 10 feet of the model. I mean,
for
that to
how
me is
big a
not
model.
for the baby.
I I never see that. And maybe there's something different about the way the logic is working in the case of the baby. Um,
Veer, I make models all the time. That's when the LOD switches. It's not a matter of like someone else seeing it differently. That's the way it happens. That's why
Well, but
everybody
yeah.
puts the second LOD as the same as the first. If it was further back, people wouldn't do that. But if it's within 10 feet, you want to see the actual model, not. And now you want to push 50%. We're getting our animeshes down to as low as possible so we can have low LODs, and then you're pushing a 50% on the medium. I mean, to me, it's. I'm not happy about it as a creator.
Yeah, there's a comment you can still go higher. You can. It just affects your streaming cost. I I I don't know, Medu. If you can give me a I know there was a discussion in the forum, but as I say, the content I've tested with, I haven't tended to see this. Is there any chance that I could get a copy of something that shows the kind of behavior you're talking about?
I can send you both the ones we're working on right now, the cat and the baby.
Okay, that'd be great.
And really, Veer, if it wasn't so like extreme to me, I wouldn't even bring it up. You know.
Yeah, no, I hear that you're concerned about it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I haven't seen the same kind of behavior myself, so I'd like to understand it better.
Veer, doesn't your render LOD factor setting in the debugs determine where your LODs change? What is yours set at and what is Mandy's set at?
Yeah, volume render LOD does make a difference, and I've had it set at different values. I don't know, what do I have it at right now?
I've never
One.
changed mine because I am developing. I don't change it.
So your render volume if you bring up your debugger for render volume LOD factor, Medu, what does it show?
What's the name of it again?
Okay, go to
Render.
advanced, show debug settings, and do render volume LOD factor. Yeah, it's in text here.
I have 1.125.
Okay, so that's about the same as mine then. It's probably a content thing uh, rather than a setting thing.
Are do are you saying that smaller items are going to change sooner?
Well, I mean, it should be proportional to the object size, but of course, as you get farther away from a smaller object, then the detail goes away faster too. Is this a baby or a cat baby or something going around next to you now?
Oh, I could probably res it right now if you want to look at it.
Oh, that's Aki's.
uh,
Okay.
I can find it.
Aki, have you run into similar issues with LODs? Okay, I see cat. So if I go render metadata LOD info, so it's at 3 now, I back away. Okay, so yeah, it goes down to 2, although it's relative to the size of the cat, I'm fairly far away from it when it happens.
Go back and forth, Veer, in and out.
One, yeah, I think I think there may be an issue with Yeah, I mean, we know there are issues with bounding boxes too. It may be that some objects have sloppier bounding boxes than others, and that's also throwing off the LOD calculations. Yeah, we're actually working on this LOD stuff. Yeah, that does seem to switch a bit faster than some of the things I'm used to dealing with. Maybe it's a box tightness thing. Um, yeah,
Well,
so
here, let
we
me.
are.
I'm dropping in chat a picture of exactly where the change happens. And of course, this baby's LODs are not optimized at this point. So I could get slightly better results, but it's very limiting when I only have half the triangles on from the original.
Because of the object size, it really shouldn't be looking at the object size. It should be looking at the bounding box.
Mesh with the wrong units. I don't quite
What
understand what you're
what
saying.
radius what radius are you looking at? You mean just the distance at which the LED is changing? Back screenshot. Um, I haven't seen that yet. Just a second.
Oh, I don't know, Beck. I don't know how you're getting that data. Because
Okay, so you're when you're getting the object radius, you're looking at the prim scale. Is that what Firestorm is reporting here? What it should be based on is the radius of the bounding box, not the radius of the prim, which is based on the prim scale, which doesn't actually mean anything.
but okay, but I made them. I mean, I deal with the mesh. I know what it is. Those numbers are not correct.
I mean, I agree that I think your models are switching LEDs a lot more enthusiastically than most of the ones I'm used to dealing with. I'm not positive what the issue is yet, but um,
Oh, I
with
see what you're saying, Beck. I see what you're saying. It's the whiskers are so small that okay, it's causing a bounding box problem.
well, is that the settings for the root object or just the settings for the whiskers?
You guys type really fast.
Yeah, if you got a lot of people going at once, you kind of lose track of the thread.
Oh, that yes, this cat is chopped up in a lot of different parts. Okay, so that's probably where you're getting that. Yeah, yeah. And it is going to be because that's how we have to do this to be able to give the consumer everything asking for them. We're basically doing like a thing where we're swapping meshes out. We're taking off parts of the body when we add like clothing, so we can keep the LODs low. So everything is going to be like super chopped up.
You could add some degenerated faces to your mesh to make the bounding box bigger, but that would probably increase your land impact as well.
Yeah, so, yeah, everything really should, the behavior really should scale proportionally, whether your object is, looking large or small or whatever. But it really does look like, not just in absolute, but even in relative terms, that this is swapping more quickly, going to the medium LOD. Mm. All right. Well, if I have a copy of any of this stuff to play with, I can take a look at it. As I say, we're in the process of doing some investigation on LEDs and bounding boxes, right now, or anyway tomorrow. So it'd be a good time to review this stuff.
Do you want the original mesh, or do you want just the object from Second
Oh,
Life?
just the object from Second Life is fine. Yeah.
I mean, I just think that medium switch is too low. I mean, I can go with like 75%. I think that's reasonable enough, but half is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Again, I mean, we're not stopping you from going higher than half. It's just you'd be, your streaming cost is going to be a little higher because you're going to be paying for another, quarter
No, I
of
don't
a
want to. I don't want to pay
object's
for more.
worth. You don't? What? Where's your patriotic spending spirit?
That's why we come to the meetings, right?
Let's see. There's a Aki asks about the shadow casting from rigged alpha surfaces. That is not currently being worked on as part of Animesh. It's just, I mean, it's just an issue with the handling of rigged meshes in general, and it is currently on Graham's plate. I don't know what the schedule on that is. He's aware of it, and I think we'll be taking a look at it at some point. But I don't know anything about the schedule on it. Not, it's not synced in any way to Animesh, so it's as far as I know, Animesh will be going up, or there's a fix for that. Uh, Polysale asking about the 25% lower bound. I don't think we're going to do it, but if you want to file a JIRA that lists specific reasons why you think it's a good idea, then it's certainly something that we'll go over at the weekly feature request triage, and it may be there are aspects of this that I'm not giving enough weight to at this point. I'm happy to take a look. So anyway, the next step would be to file a JIRA with relevant links to images or content or whatever there. All right. If I missed anybody else's question, please speak up. It's been fast typing and fast scrolling for the last few minutes, so I may have missed somebody. Yeah. Is 50% an arbitrary value? I mean, I guess it is, but I mean, any value could be argued to be an arbitrary value. I don't know what would make something a non-arbitrary value. You want a value that's low enough that it encourages reasonable content efficiency, but high enough that it's reasonably achievable. I guess those are the kind of main trade-offs. Is the imposter size going to get increased? This is the problem of imposters getting cropped where part of the mesh doesn't show up because it's getting clipped against the triangle, against a rectangle. Yeah, we're looking at that. As I say, we're in the process of looking at some LED bounding box issues right now. And the basically the problem with the imposters is that we don't have a good real-time bounding box for rigged meshes. So I'm not sure if we can improve that, then we can also improve the behavior of imposters. But whether we'll be able to, or whether that's going to go into the initial Animesh release, we don't. Yeah, I've definitely seen the bug.
I'll just say about draw calls that too much of Second Life encourages, in the end result, bad draw calls or excessive amounts.
Yeah, well, it is definitely a challenge. Oh, hey, I see Graham's here. Graham, were you here earlier when we were talking about the shadow problem with rigged meshes?
Yeah, I've been chatting with Aki about it.
Oh, okay, good.
Some test content together.
I didn't see you on the list when we were talking earlier.
I probably missed it, but is there any progress on Bakes on Mesh?
Yeah, we talked about that in the beginning. Bakes on Mesh, the main thing that Anchor's been working on recently is adding the additional bake channels so that you have some some aux channels that can be used for anything, and
Oh, good.
channels that are intended primarily for dealing with the left-right asymmetry problems with limbs.
But nothing moving forward on like automating the texture applying process or any of
That's not what we're working on right now, no.
Yeah,
It's
I wanted,
still I know there's been a ton of discussion about that, and there's seems to be a considerable lack of unanimity even among the kind of user and content creator community. But I do understand there's a lot of concern about it, and there's no uh, there's no definite decision on where we're going to go with that. We're just dealing with channel issue first.
yeah, I wanted to bring something up at the meeting just to kind of get it out there. It doesn't have to do with what you're talking about right now, but it has to do with Mix on Mesh. Um, uh, During our hiatus, where we didn't have any meetings for like 3 weeks, I brought up in the forum the idea of possibly to make the Mix on Mesh easier to use was to bring over some code from the RLV viewer or the RLV code. Um, it would allow HUDs to be able to, like, say you have a tattoo maker. Tattoo maker makes a HUD of say 40 or 50 different tattoos with a bunch of little pictures on their HUD, and then you can click on the HUD, and it would make you wear the system tattoo for that particular tattoo. It would just make it easier for the end user, the regular residents, to be able to change clothes and change outfits and to use baked on mesh. And the code has already been written, so it would just have to be brought over, not the whole ROV code, and just parts of it. And the person
The
who is
code has already
writing the
been written
ROV
for what?
for the it's in a lot of third party viewers like Firestorm and other third party viewers already have this code in it, and so it's already been written. And the person or persons were writing that code said they would be willing to share that code with Linden Lab, so that it wouldn't even have to be something that Linden Lab would have to write themselves.
I'm sorry, I don't understand exactly what the code in question does.
Okay, what the code in question does is it allows scripts to um, make an avatar wear system clothing, and also attachments, but I would be mainly interested in the system clothing so that you could create a HUD and say the HUD, like I said, has pictures, 30 different pictures of 30 different tattoos. And then when they click on that picture of that tattoo, your system avatar would wear that system tattoo, making it much easier for residents to be able to decide which tattoo that they want to wear. It just
Okay,
makes it
so
easier
you're
for
just
the end
talking
user.
about having kind of preview images for wearables?
Well, it's not a preview image. It would be the say you're a tattoo designer, and you're selling a collection of tattoos, um, in it, and so that the tattoo maker would create a HUD, or they have the option of creating a HUD and uploading pictures of each tattoo, and then in the HUD have those images on the HUD, and then the customer would wear the HUD and then just click on the tattoo image that they want to wear. This could be done for anything. It could be done for system pants, system shirts, or any tattoos. That it would just make it easier for the end user, instead of going in an inventory and seeing 30 system tattoos with 30 different names on those tattoos, trying to figure out, okay, which tattoo did I want to wear. They could just open up their HUD and see an image of the tattoo they want to wear, and then just click on it.
Okay. Well, but I mean, it's a preview in the sense that it's an image that shows you what tattoo you're selecting. It's a visual representation that isn't the same thing as the as the tattoo itself, or are you just actually seeing the texture from inside the tattoo displayed on the HUD?
No, it's just a representative image. So if the tattoo designer decides to make the actual tattoo image, that image they could, or they could upload a low image representation of that tattoo. Um,
Okay,
so it,
so this representative image is something that has to be kind of authored independently, but it could be included along with a wearable or some other object.
it would be in HUD. It'd just be like you upload the tattoo. Say the tattoo designer would upload the tattoo texture itself, and then they would upload a second image of that represents that tattoo, and then they would take that image and put it on the HUD so that when you clicked on the HUD, it would make you wear the system tattoo. So the HUD would have probably like the system UUID tattoo in the HUD, so that when they clicked on that particular little square on the HUD that has the image on it, it would make them simply wear the system tattoo. Yeah.
Now, the scripting you're talking about, does it generate the clothing layers, or do they have to be made and like inserted into the HUD first?
Well, the way what you would have to do it is the tattoo designer would upload the original tattoo,
All
and they
right.
would put it on a system tattoo. They would create a system tattoo and put that texture on a system tattoo, and they would get the UUID of that system tattoo, and then they would put at least this is what I'm assuming. I don't know exactly how RLV works, but then they would have that when you click on the HUD, it tells you to wear that system UID.
Well, I like the outfit folders. The problem is that the outfit folders require you to have all these other things in there that you might not want to attach to yourself, like another avatar or whatever. If you could just put everything you wanted into those outfit folders and not have the extra parts, then you could put images on there. You would know exactly what was in there. Just click on it and wear it. But the extra parts
What
in
do you
those
mean
folders,
about extra parts in the outfit
well, you
folders?
have to have a skin. You have to have an actual avatar in there. You have to have hair in there. You have to have all the default parts.
But you can create a preview image for the whole outfit if you want to just choose your outfit using the graphical chooser, right? That's
but
in
you're
the
still stuck with
what is it called?
attaching
The
another
outfit
avatar to
gallery.
it.
I think what she's asking for is a more automated way of getting a bunch of different pieces onto an avatar. That way, if you wear like a set of hose, have it automatically attach to the alpha for those hose. If you wear a flex dress, have it automatically attach the glitch layer for that. Frankly,
Yeah, there's a few different ways you could go with this stuff in terms of, you've got commands for actually modifying your outfit contents. You've got commands for trying to turn wear outfit components. We there's it's I think there's a bunch of different concerns and a bunch of different proposals kind of floating around about this. So it's still a little underspecified. We can't really get into a deep dive about it right now though, because we're kind of on. So we should probably wrap it up for this week. I think we are meeting next week. That's going to be like the last day of May or thereabouts. So there shouldn't be any issue with that one. And
well, if they're willing to give you the code, why don't you just have them send you the code and you can look at it and decide if you want to do something with it? I mean,
Shelley, who is she? Who is the she you're referring to?
you.
No, because what you were saying is not what I was thinking.
Well, I'm totally misinterpreting what
The HUD I'm talking about simply wears. Yeah, yeah. I think you're slightly. The HUD that I'm talking about would simply, uh, you know, when you click on it, it makes you wear the system clothing, whatever that is, associate. That the HUD maker makes that particular button for.
Yeah,
So you just want kind of
that's
a different
exactly what.
UI for picking
Yeah.
system clothing, rather than doing it through the current outfit editor.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that, Veer?
So it sounds like you're talking about just a different UI for picking system clothing rather than going through the outfit editor.
All we'd be looking
Right.
for
Simply
here is a
because
function that would let a script wear a wearable that would apply to both what she's talking about with the HUD that lets you choose a tattoo and wear it, and what Shelly's talking about with auto-wearing alphas and glitch layers and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Wait, Kathy, are you talking about scripts to do this, or are you talking about a UI element that would be added? Because if it's a UI element, then what I was talking about would be separate. If you're talking about a script thing, doing what you're saying would automatically do what I'm saying.
I don't know exactly how RLV works because I've never used it myself, so I don't know. I do know RLV. What it does is people can create like drop-down menus,
Alright.
and somebody clicks on it, and then whatever the system clothing and attachments that are assigned to that particular button, it makes them wear it. But I don't know exactly how it works. I just know
RLV
RLV
intercepts owner say messages, and it has built-in code in the viewer that wears the attachment through an interface we don't ever see, but I'm assuming it uses the same hooks as the regular interface. There's no scripting that's really in place there. The RLV scripting just makes owner say calls. So there's no code there that you could just pull over.
I know there's an RLV folder, but like I said, I'm not exactly sure how it works. I just know that it's something that makes your avatar wear system clothing,
Yeah.
And I assume that you could make a HUD out of it, and you could add your own textures to that HUD to represent the system clothing that you want to wear.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the steps in my Jira. Absolutely support this idea.
Before an LSL function that would simply, you could pop in a UUID, and that when you click on run that script, that it just simply makes you wear the system clothing for that UUID. That would be awesome. That would be super simple and easy to make a HUD with.
Yeah. Yeah. You can kind of do that with RLV, but the system layers have to be already created. So if we could get that part of RLV integrated to normal LSL, then it's just a matter of adding code for creating the layers. So.
All right, well, I have to run right now, folks, but we'll see you next week, and thanks everybody for coming.
Lucy, we've asked for lots of things before, and sometimes we've got them, and sometimes we've got them again later. Bakes on Mesh was asked for a long time ago, and now we're finally getting it. So,
Thanks, Veer.
Thanks, London.
Thanks, Landons. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of ways of getting the maximum usage out of Bakes on Mesh
Yeah.
with the minimum amount of input, as far as the minimum amount of effort that Linden Lab has to go through. So I
Yeah.
was figuring if there's already been code written, why not bring it over? And if there could be some modification where it not only
Well,
where
theoretically, they could just modify the clients and not the LSL code to make that part of RLV baseline. But they just have to decide to do that, and then that would, even without the rest of my idea, that's something I know I've been wanting, just to cut down the number of things that have to be in a folder. It's a little ridiculous. In order to wear an outfit, you have to wear the mesh, and then you also have to wear like the shoe layer and the alpha and this, that, and the other thing. And it's just one more thing to complicate people's lives.
Being able to have a script trigger wearing a wearable would be a very nice feature. I totally agree with that, and it would be a step in the right.
Yeah.
Because at least then you could throw all your options, your 30 tattoos or whatever, into a HUD. And when you click a button, the HUD could give you the tattoo and make you wear it. Or it could just make you wear it out of the folder, or whichever way it would work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Right.
don't the outfit folders work pretty much the same way?
An outfit folder doesn't help you until you set it up. We're talking about something to make a new
Right.
product easier to handle from the get-go. Right now, with an Applier HUD, you buy a HUD, you get one thing in a folder, and it's a HUD. You wear it, and you choose whichever button it is that has the option that you want to wear. Click, boom, it goes onto your mesh body. The way
Right.
that we're going to be doing this with Bakes on Mesh, the way it's coming down the pipe now, with no consideration for being able to insert anything into the stack, you'll buy this tattoo that's got 30 options, and you'll get a folder that's got 30 tattoo layers that have absolutely no visual preview on them, and that's what you get in a folder. So, this is why we're looking for some kind of an easier way to get something to the end user without them having to set something up once they buy a product.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Since if the content creator can make their own HUD, they can choose their own images to represent whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could have your baby, you could make a HUD with two or three different types of diapers and bonnets and rattles and
I wouldn't want any of that, but
but then have an image
nobody
for
else
each
would.
but then have an image for each one of those, and that would make a lot more sense, so that somebody who has the baby can open up the HUD and they go, oh, today I want her to wear the pink flowered bonnet, and then she just clicks on it instead of having to go through a folder and see 20 different system tattoos on there and go, okay, which one of these? Okay, that one's purple flowers. Oh, there's the pink flower. So it'd just be a lot easier for the end user to look at
Yeah.
an image instead of trying to read titles. So that's what I've been thinking about. And and if we could have a script that actually made system clothing, that would make things go a lot easier
Yeah,
for
but
content creators.
Here's
as well.
my issue with the whole concept. Okay, it doesn't a HUD. We don't have HUDs. Okay, the viewer doesn't have a HUD. I mean, technically, that we can create our own thing. Now, if they wanted to create some internal system that did all that, not some actual HUD that you passed around to people, I'd be all for that. But not some separate thing that's
Yeah. I
Well,
don't.
you only wear the HUD for a short
Getting
period of
from
time. You don't wear it all the time.
or
And
whatever.
Yeah, Beck, the other
It's
thing
one
is
thing if they
to
take a box and drop it into a thing in the viewer, and then they get this. Okay, but I don't understand how they're gonna because it's kind of like the user ends up using not a system in Second Life, but a system that came from the user, and I think that's where you want to. I mean, let's do
what
a
the hell's
fix
wrong
in the
with that,
viewer
though?
for that.
I mean, it's up to the content creators to create retention in Second Life, because Linden Lab is not creating content. So what is wrong with Second Life users creating systems to be employed. I don't see why you're
Oh,
opposed to
the
that at all.
issue I have.
And wait, hold on.
Well,
Let me
the
tell you one
issue
more
I
thing.
would
As far as
have.
what Beck was concerned with, this whole HUDs are a waste of system resources. Not if we put 128 by 128 preview images on all these. They're certainly going to impact the server a lot less.
My point has nothing to do with any of it. My point has to do with it. This whole thing is confusing for consumers as it is. Okay, so it needs to not be something that comes. It needs to be the creators working with the lab to have something that's built in that works. Everybody's happy.
Okay, they're not fixing to add a whole built-in HUD interface, though, not right away. We already have countless HUDs in Second Life now, and you can't tell me that you really believe that a folder full of system layers that you have no preview for is more intuitive for a new user than a single HUD that has buttons on it with preview in it.
The thing is, it's not this. Everybody, you have different creators all giving HUDs, and it's not part of the system. Okay, that's my point. That if you want to have a good experience for all users, then we need to find one system for it, not.
I'm all for them coming up with better systems, but
It's kind of like when the users came up with an Applier system, and then LL comes up with something to completely remove that, and everybody gets upset.
yeah, because the Applier system works better than the system layers.
I've tried to come up with multiple different ways of approaching it to make it easier for the end users, and some of them I've put towards. I've talked with Veer about and tried to put things like if we could upload our own, like when you could look in the inventory, you see those little icons before each. They're very small icons before each item in your inventory. Like the hair icon is the side profile of somebody with short brown hair. I tried to talk to him about, hey, how about with system tattoos if we could upload our own little icon, allow the so that you could have a little tiny image of, like I said, it'd be really super small, a little image of diaper, a little image of a bonnet, to make it easier for the end user. And so I'm trying to come up with these different ways. And I also talked about there is that new what do they call it? The wardrobe thing where you can take a picture, snapshot, and make that the image for that outfit. But that's only one image. I was like,
it's also something that you have to create after you receive a product. You can't create that for them ahead of time.
You're also asking that.
So I was asking here, can we expand that to where each individual system clothing or item in your inventory, if the content creator wanted to, they could create an image, a gallery image for that, so that it wouldn't have to be in a HUD. So I put these ideas for there. I think the HUD idea is probably the one that, I understand HUDs can cause lag, but most people are going to wear it for a brief period of time. They change their outfit and then they take it off.
I'm about the consistency for the user because it's such a nightmare now. And I like outfit folders. Okay, but what I don't like about them is it changes everything. I don't want it to change everything. Now, you could
you can add.
Well, let me just say that you could devise a system where, with a little piece of code that you drop into a box, if you drag it into this little area in the viewer, it adds a folder, an outfit folder. I mean, I don't see why that isn't a perfect solution if we can get outfit folders without all the extra stuff.
Well, it's mainly the preview problem. When you buy 30 tattoos and get a folder with 30 different tattoos in it, it's basically a preview problem of which tattoo is this? It's easier if you could
I'm with you on the whole easier way to make an outfit without all the extra bits. Absolutely got to do that, but that's a separate thing.
You could have an outfit folder where you could drop those 30 tattoos and have a preview image for each one of those 30 tattoos or whatever it is, so that when you open up that folder you can see.
There's another part of this. I mean, everybody it's almost, I don't mean to yell at anybody. But it's like everybody thinks that you could just have 1,000 images on your computer trying to render them. And it's like,
Well,
there are
this would
limitations. We need to stick within these limitations.
Well,
here. That's part of the
Right,
problem
but
with
see,
That-
web designers know this. You, like I said, you can create very small preview images that are meaningful. And I might add, they'd impact the system a hell of a lot less than somebody wearing each of 30 different tattoos trying to find the right one that they want to wear. With all of the
Yeah, that-
loading and
tattoos
the
are detailed.
changing
You
and the
need
loading.
something pretty decent high res to be able to see a tattoo.
No, well, that all depends on
Now-
the tattoo. You'd
Here's
be
a question.
surprised, which you can relay with a thumbnail, even if it's 128 by 128. You're a whole lot better off than you are, even if you have one image that's 512 by 512. You're a whole lot better than loading 3 images that are 1024 by 1024 for a tattoo layer, which is what you're talking about getting now with Based on Mesh, upping all of the system layers to 1024 textures.
yeah.
Here's a
Never show me
question. When you
getting
wear a
so
HUD,
many-
here's the question. When you wear a HUD, is the text